everyone. Welcome to LGBTQ Voices in Black Media, where we'll discuss the portrayals in Hollywood that sit at the intersection of the Black diaspora and queer identity. Now, you recognize Bre-Z and Rhoyle King from the All American franchise. We have Jordan Cooper joining us a bit later, who is acted not only on FX's Pose, but is also a writer and co-creator of the Miss Pat Show. And of course, we have Wayne Brady, who you know from everything, but he's now stepping into the reality realm with the Family Remix. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you. All right. Rhoyle, Bre-Z, will kick things off with you. In each of your roles on the All-American franchise, you are showcasing a side of the Black experience and of the queer experience that isn't always portrayed without bias and stereotypes, especially on network television. As actors carrying representation for two marginalized groups at the same time, how do you approach roles that you portray with that intersectionality mindset?
Well, I personally, stepping into the roles, I like to have a conversation about how are you seeing it. And based on my experience, a lot of these roles are either misrepresented or just not represented. You know what I mean? So for me, stepping into this, I was able to have a conversation with my showrunner and, just be real about what it is. Like, we're not going to portray this character as some sex crazed, hardcore, I want to be a man. Like, we're just not going to do that, So for me, it was just having open dialogue with my writers and just being honest with myself about what it is to be me,
Yeah, I would say this season, I really learned that representation can change. And your idea of who you're representing and what you're representing can change. There was a moment before we started shooting season 3 where I had a phone call with my showrunner, because in season 1 and 2, we had this idea that for Nate, we really wanted her to be a person that just so happened to be queer. Because the idea was, let's push it forward. Let's start to talk about the world as we see it moving. And then at one point, I remember I got a few emails from fans, parents specifically, that were asking, I think my child is transitioning before me and I don't know what to do. I think this is happening and I'm asking for your thought and your input. And then when me and NK spoke, I told her, I said, I think we got to switch this up. I think we have this really cool opportunity to not just present this moment in which we are portraying a character that we want to see the future of, but also portraying a character that people can take things right now, and that those kind of questions can be answered. And so this season, we actually have a really cool moment where we kind of break down and talk about what a non-binary person goes through, and specifically telling the stories that we were hearing non-binary voices deliver online, on social media, and podcasts and whatnot, and start to bring that to the screen, because at the end of the day, amplifying those voices is the entire point.
Agreed, 100%. Now, Wayne, you're providing representation in a different way by opening up the cameras to your real life. So after coming out as a member of the LGBT community last year, what has been the biggest challenge for you stepping out of playing a role and kind of stepping into just showing yourself on camera?
It's hard enough to be yourself just in life, right? Just daily. Life is hard. Then you add, you're trying to be yourself on camera, which you're always a heightened version of anyway. So I think the challenge for me was I wanted to seek some authenticity and transparency, not for the show, because the show was following myself and my family. So I wasn't doing it, oh, now we got a camera, let me make this statement for the camera. It was what I was willing to share, and was I really ready to do it? Because that's not a role. It is what it is. So I took that step and I said, okay, I am willing to share it. So in using the show as the platform, what I'm hoping is to accomplish a few things. A, letting the people that have followed me and seen me do these things, give them a glimpse into my life. B, also be very authentic so that I can go from the sidelines with the LGBTQ plus community and go and really play an authentic role on the team to move forward the things that I think need to be moved forward. And then also the representation of, I don't know what this is supposed to look like. When someone says, oh, so you look gay, or you grow up, you know what I mean? When someone said, oh, you look sweet. Well, what does that mean? I'll still beat your ass.
Beat the shit out you.
So even what does that represent? What does pansexual, what does bisexual look like? Those are questions that I had to ask me. I had to find the answers from me so that then I could turn around and try to give answers to other people watching, not just children or teens, which I've gotten emails from teens, kids in theater saying, oh, you know, I heard your story, I feel like you. But you know what? Grown men and women, 40, 45, 50, late in life, living with these secrets that they're deciding that they want to share these things. So those were all the things that I had to do at once, because it wasn't a character. So I had to say, what's the character of Wayne? It's like, what do you represent? So it's an ongoing discussion in terms of how I situate myself, how I can help, how I can be part of the family and the team, and how I can do so honestly. That's it.
Well said. Which kind of leads me to my next question, because in these roles, or in your reality TV show, you all, on top of being actors or entertainers, you're acting as educators for a lot of people who maybe don't really know what non-binary is. They don't know what pansexual is, and so you're teaching them through these roles. Do you feel like an extra weight of responsibility to kind of do that representation properly for people who, you know, claim that they don't know anybody that lives these lifestyles, or they don't understand these lifestyles, things like that nature?
Educating, but you mean educating by living it?
Pretty much. You're by living it, by portraying, well, living and portraying it, for both of you, all three of you.
There was a role that I played, because I've actually gotten a few chances to play different roles, like Collins in Rent, who is with Angel, and then even Lola in Kinky Boots on Broadway, who Lola was a drag queen, and no one ever talked about who Lola went home with, because that wasn't a part of the thing. But for me, I always knew that I felt, because I didn't know what the word was in terms of being pan, but I knew that Lola was open to loving whoever Lola wanted to, because of how she treated everybody else on stage. And so I started to learn from that, and that's what I tried to put out there in terms of the education piece. Just being open to say, it's not about the sex piece, it's about the love piece. Or I think that my daughter, she hipped me to this expression, what was it? Hearts before parts, in terms of loving who, I'm sorry? Yes, and that blew my mind. So that's the biggest education that I received, so I just tried to pass that on just by being.
Yeah, I would say with Nate, I remember season 1, the most important thing to me was to really use the art of storytelling, but not preaching, but specifically storytelling, because I felt that there are so many people that use their platforms to talk about these things and to talk about their experiences, and they're doing incredible work doing that. But then also there's another route that storytelling can take, which I believe sometimes it can really touch on your empathy. And I really wanted, through the character, and this is something that our showrunner also agreed with, was that for people that are not in proximity to a non-binary person in their life at all, that they are introduced to her and they're able to look at her, and even though she is different by their means, they can say, I wish I had a friend like that. And I feel like in that moment, you completely did exactly what we're wanting you to do, which is just simply humanize us. Look at us for our spirit, look at us for who we are, honor who we are, but also realize that we are people. We can be good friends, good coworkers, great leaders, And so I think that's really the thing. And so that's probably, out of all of the reactions to the character, that's probably my favorite thing that I've ever received is like, I want a friend like Nate. And I'm like, period.
Well, yeah, Rhoyle and I have the same showrunner, so our characters on the show were absolutely like handled with the same respect in terms of just humanizing us as people. But my characters and roles that I've played, like sexuality was never at the forefront of the role. I think that it's been made a spectacle so many times. It always is, and I was never willing to do that, you know? So it was more about showing a young black woman persevering, her trials, her tribulation, and her stepping into something bold. Like my character is now studying law and going to law school, and she's a young black masculine presenting woman in the field of law. Like, we don't see that, you know what I mean? So we're actually just kind of opening up and making space for people that look like myself to do whatever you want to do and do it well, you know what I'm saying? So that's the focal point for us, and I think for his character as well. Like, we just showing that I'm not a circus act, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to do it how I need to do it, whatever I want to pursue, I'm going to do that as well, and you're going to respect me for exactly what I do. Not what you think I am, not what I look like, not what I smell like, but the work that I put in and the results that are made clear. So I think that, you know, it's important to do that as well. And unless the story calls for an extreme sexualized role, you know what I'm saying? Like, our stories, of course, we have a younger demographic, very younger audience, so it's not really at the forefront. We touch on it, so you know, and you can feel seen and feel heard through our characters, but it's absolutely not priority. Not for my character anyway.
Agreed. And I think for either one of your characters, I don't think it's been prioritized. So that's a beautiful thing to see. Absolutely. When we speak of black queer representation in general, oftentimes voices pop up with conspiracy theories and things like that, saying that there's an agenda. Everybody knows what that means in Hollywood. How do you respond to viewers who have those fears and misgivings about seeing stories like this on their television?
Get over it. I mean, honestly, I think it's one of those things where, like, when I was in college, one of the things that my professor says is something that's really cool about what we do, especially when it comes to television and film, is that in a way we're kind of like a mirror, like that sits above, and that people can look at these screens and they can look up and they can see themselves reflected, which is the most important part about the inclusive idea, is that we hear the word all the time, but then we start to forget how important it actually is. Inclusive, inclusive, inclusive. But the idea is that everyone can look up and see themselves represented. And so in the same way that that person also deserves to have that, I would never let their opinion or their thought about some agenda make me go, I should shy away from this. I should step away. I'll never let that person make me dress or look or act any differently, because there is a younger version of me that needs to see this. And a lot of times when I watch Nate and when I watch Nico on P-Valley, who I absolutely adore, like, there are so many moments when I'm like, I hope that there is someone young watching these characters going like, oh my God, there I am on that big mirror, because I deserve to be.
Anybody else want to speak?
Oh, please. Duh. No, that was such a great answer.
Hey.
How am I going? Yeah. Done.
Hey, it is what it is. Now, have you either of you?
You know what? I will say one thing.
Okay.
I got it. I think the point where I come from, and part of what I do enjoy about when I came out, and even before then, trying to spread certain messages, whether it's a black message or whether it's this message, is I sit in an interesting place, and I know that I sit in an interesting place for years in entertainment as a black man, and the overlapping Venn diagram of audiences. And nothing makes me happier than reading comments that when I came out, or even during the pandemic, when I would post things about LGBTQ plus issues or black issues. And it's always somebody who on their profile, you know, Ingrid from Montana, God first, kids, Christian, loves to have a good time. Hey Wayne, love your show, blah, 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 blah. Next message when I post something, how dare you? God hates you, you son of a bitch, blah, blah, blah. All these things that they want to call me out of my name. But but the message before, you love Jesus and you were telling me how much you like my show. So my personal mission has been to anger those people. To anger every single person who, because if you watch my show or you watch anything that you like me on and I like Wayne, I like when he does it, well then you don't like the whole of me. Or don't. Because if you're not gonna rock with me, then I won't rock with you, because I know that I represent not just me, but I'm a placeholder for a lot of other people behind me. So if you're saying, well, I like when you make me laugh, I like when you sing, I like when you dance, but how dare you talk about, LGBTQ or black stuff, how dare you? Well then, bye, because that's who I am. So if you don't like me, then you don't like all these other people. You don't like my people. So I love making them mad. Or I love bringing them around. And I've had that happen at a show. Someone has come up to me when I've done one of my live improv dates. Hey man, you know that I follow you and I wasn't happy at first when you started spouting all that stuff. And immediately I thought the conversation was going south. He goes, but then I went back and I listened to what you said and I realized that I like you as a person, so that means that these other people, they're probably not bad either, huh? I said, no, probably not. So that's the cool part of the mission. So I just wanted to tag that on because I think that's the 1-2 punch.
Speaking to that point a bit, have you, either of you specifically, had to have any pushback coming up in the industry? Have you had to push back against any misconceptions coming up in the industry before you got into these roles with such a, understanding showrunner who, listens to you, understands what stories you're trying to tell? Did you have a lot of difficulty in roles prior, or even just trying to break into the industry?
I came into this industry exactly who I was. I was sought after based on who I was. So I didn't really know or understand. I knew that I personally was not represented in, across Hollywood like that. But I really didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, oh, they want Bre-Z. I'm just going to pull up and be me. You know what I mean? But even my first role being Empire, I had the same experience. Of course, Lee Daniels was the showrunner then, so he's a black gay man, and he was like, no, like, I like you exactly how you are. And he was, the first person I encountered who was big on telling those stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, nope, don't change, don't do this. But outside of that, and in between the Lee Daniels and the Nkechi Carols, there are people who are like, you need to, maybe a little lip gloss, a heel, something, do something. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people still don't think that women who look like me and walk like me and talk like me can thrive in this industry without being that. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was an automatic, absolutely not for me. So I was never even willing to have the conversation. If we're not going to do something properly, it's a difference. If you want me to play a feminine role, it's different. But if we are going to represent this particular type of person, we have to do it accurately. And I'm not saying that all women, dress alike and do things alike or whatever. No, but we have to be authentic with how we develop this particular character. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's been about for me. And like I said, I still hear it. I walk around it like, whatever, y'all ain't gonna say it to me, you know what I'm saying? But, I know it's out there, and I think the purpose of telling these stories is so we not even having them conversations. You know what it is when you see it. You know what I'm saying? So normalizing it, most importantly, and that way, the people who, like Wayne said, were once against it are now comfortable with it because it's out there. We've made it clear. Y'all know who this is and what we do and what we're about, and we just people. You know what I mean? So, I think it's just a part of the programming at this point.
Yeah, I feel like for me, there was a time where I was like, I felt like it was hard for the industry to see or understand or get or cast me. And I used to get so frustrated in the waiting periods between things and trying to get them little notes that, they give you like, can you do it, but a little bit more like, yas, queen. And it was like, okay, sure. And in that same period, I discovered creativity. And I discovered my own creativity. And I realized at a certain point that I don't have to wait for somebody to cast me to be an actor. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me an opportunity to express myself creatively. And I feel like once I unlocked that side of myself, and once I unlocked that decision of I'm not waiting for a green light to do anything that I love, I think it was actually a moment that I learned, maybe I wasn't actually seeing myself. And that once I started creating, I started to see me more. And then opportunities started to come from that. So I think that was probably a huge pivotal point I had about thinking really it was the industry that wasn't seeing me, it was this and that. But it really took me unlocking who I really am and seeing myself. And once I began to carve out that picture, once things got a little bit cleaner and tighter as far as who I was going to be, a lot of doors started to open up.
That's the best way to approach it. Now, Wayne, when you did come out last year, was there any trepidation on your part about the types of roles that you might be offered moving forward, or did you think there might be a change, any of that, and has there been since that time?
Yes, I did have that thought. There was a panicked second when, I completely thought, oh, my whole world is going to end, this whole thing, and blah, blah, blah. And then I put those voices aside, and my family was with me, and everything was all right. And then I realized it is what it is, and how can I be wrong if I'm just speaking the truth? And whatever roles are supposed to come to me will come to me regardless of whatever I say. So I had to have that real great moment of clarity and not a regret, not one. And things have actually been even better with phone calls, with those roles, with certain roles, with both opportunities on and off camera, which at this point in my life, I really relish the off camera because in terms of ownership and creation and being able to do that, those calls started to come through because I think that when you say, oh, this is who I am, and I see you, and I see you, then folks go, oh, well, that's who I want to deal with. I didn't want to deal with that dude who was, who didn't talk to anybody because he was afraid. So it's been great.
Awesome. I'm going to open the floor to questions in just a moment, but just before we do that, I do want to ask for each of you specifically, did you have any specific goals moving forward on All-American in the future? What kind of roles would you love to have moving forward?
I personally, after All-American, plan to I'm doing it now, but, creating my own stuff, producing my own stuff, just so I could be in control of the narratives, and not just speaking for, a black lesbian woman, but just women in general, you know what I mean? And all people, everybody sees us all so differently, you know what I mean? So it's just based on perspective. But we see a lot of things the same way. We see a lot of stories told the exact same way. Like, the game has not changed. They just swapping actors out, So I just want to get into, just true and authentic storytelling, like in a real way.
Yeah, I used to try to really manipulate this idea of like, oh, I'm actually really, really in control of what it is that I want to do. And I think my honest answer to your question now, whatever God wants. Because I truly am like, I can tell God all day long, I want to do this, I want to do that. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm going to show you what you're going to do. And so I think for me, I'm just really in a space of just like, what am I called to? But if I can say what my intuition feels and what I feel like has been consistent throughout my journey so far is telling stories that mean something, telling stories that people can take something away from, that inspire people. I would say that the goal, if I can word that in a way for my career, is if I can make someone feel that same moment of inspiration I felt when I watched a show that moved me, or I had that moment of like, oh my God, I feel like I'm capable of this. I feel like I am moved to kind of go against everything that scares me and go for it. If I can just make one person feel that, boom, that's it. So whatever that project is.
Awesome. Now, Wayne, you're a veteran, but is there anything that you haven't done yet that you would like to tackle?
We don't have enough time. There are that many things that I want to do. There are that many things. But God willing, I'll be able to check a few of them off.
God willing. Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? You have a mic? Just raise your voice in the blue. Blue hair.
Directing. I would say don't be afraid to put your hands on any story that you think isn't going to be accepted. I think that's happening a lot. There is a area of this industry where a lot of things are played safely, and then there's a whole nother side of people who just rebel and go against the grain, and those are the Jordan Peels, shoot, and K.G. Carroll's, the Greg Berlantes, people who tell stories that we don't necessarily see. So I would say, don't be afraid. I would go towards the scariest thing.
Any more? Right here in the front.
Yes, ma'am. I just move the way that I want to move. And it took me forever to get around to this thinking of, I can't control what somebody thinks. So even you sing, I don't know if some of you in the back heard that some people may think, oh yeah, Wayne Brady is safe like that. Okay, sure. If you're thinking that, then obviously you're not watching. Safe isn't being, I was the first black man to be on a network show like I was, in that capacity. I was the first black man to host like Miss America. And that there are places that on purpose, I said, look, I'm gonna insinuate myself in these certain places because why not? Why haven't we been there? So if being safe means first, then I'm safe as hell. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've been on TV since '99, so something was working. Some of those people that had something to say, I don't see their shows.
All right.
So my thing to you is just move how you gonna move. I move how I move. That's my advice to you as a director. Know your voice and what you want to say, and don't worry about the other people, especially your own people, because sometimes we are the fastest people to say to the other people, oh, well, you not ... Well, if you were paying attention, that you'd know that I'm that times 10. So that's just what, so.
Well said. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
I would say don't stop. I mean, there's so many people that get pushback no matter what it is. It's not just the LGBTQIA plus, type of content. It's not that. The Lena Waithe in Kokomo City, I don't know if you've seen that, but it was about trans. That it did amazing at film festivals, and I watched it. I thought it was beautiful. I got a chance to preview it before it came out, but the trans community has been around since I've been seeing it since I was a child. So there's still stories that got to be told, and if that's like your lane, then you just have to keep pushing it. Like I said, overall, we're a part of the program, and we're trying to normalize something. You know what I'm saying? And humanize it. These are conversations, visuals, and people that have been put so far away and like in a black box. Who are these people? Like, who are aliens or something like that? You know what I mean? But the more you do it, and he does it, she does it, the more people do it. It's a part of the program, and people get used to seeing it. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's a such thing. Wayne could probably speak to this, just because I haven't, sat in front of the networks and tried to pitch something like that. So I'm not sure what the pushback is from them, but it's not just you. They pushing back all kind of stuff, because they want what's safe. You know what I'm saying? So the independent route is the way. And the good thing about today is that there is so many ways. Like, and I know Tubi is amazing for this. There's so many other outlets to get your point across that will pick up your content. You can start on YouTube. You start wherever. You know what I mean? The big, it don't matter. I don't want to be rude about it, but anything big doesn't matter. You may not ever have your thing in Blockbuster, but we got Instagram, and people are doing full-on shorts as reels. They keep extending the time. You know what I mean? It was a minute, now it's 10. It might be 20 tomorrow, you know what I mean? So it's not just one way, and we are more in a space now than we ever been, where we are constantly in motion. Don't get caught up on the TV, because there ain't nobody really watching it. We are lucky. You know what I'm saying? People are watching what they can on the move. So take advantage of all these little platforms, and because 10 small things could equal the one big thing, if not more. You know what I mean? And understand that when a bigger network gets a hold of your project, you lose control. So there's that. Like he said, either you're going to do what's true for you and what you're passionate about. Stay there. Stay with what allows you to do that. If at any point you are willing, my girl, if at any point you are willing to, relinquish that control or that creativity for whatever you're creating, then by all means chase after what's bigger. But I don't think it's necessary for you, because I would love to see something like that. I would love to check out your project. I'm sure everybody in here would love to see it. Doesn't matter. You shoot the link out there, we're going to click it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to be in front of my TV at 7 o'clock because your thing's world premiere and I have something to do. You know what I'm saying? So go with what's accessible. I wouldn't even worry about that. Get that out your mind. Sorry.
All right. Thank you all so much today. Thank you all for this amazing talk. That wraps up our time. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of Hollywood House.
Thank you.